So now we're going to go ahead and look at kind of the formula for the volume of a cylinder. And we just want you to understand that Cavalari's principle also relates to cylinders. All right? And so a good explanation of this is if you have this stack of CDs, if it's the same amount of CDs in each stack, even though one looks like a right cylinder and the other one is an oblique cylinder, really it has the same volume. Right? And so again, if you kind of look at the formula for the volume of a cylinder, it's very, very similar to what we just looked at. Right? All it is going to be the volume of the cylinder equals the area of the base times the height. Well, the area of the base is a circle, right? So that base is represented by pi r squared multiplied by the height. Okay? So let's take a look at a few examples. They try to trick us just a little bit here in a couple of these, but it's really not too bad. Okay? So let's look at the first one. So it looks like we have an oblique cylinder that says find the volume of the cylinder, give your answer in terms of pi, and round it to the nearest tenth. Right, so I guess I'll just sort of underline this part here so I don't forget that they actually want two answers in terms of pi and rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, I have to remember that the the volume formula for a cylinder is just going to be the area of the base multiplied by the height. Or in other words, that's going to be pi r squared because we are dealing with circular bases, and then multiplied by the height. Okay, so let's go ahead and figure out what is the area of our base. Okay, so I'm going to say the area of our base, capital B, is going to be equal to pi times radius squared. Well, our radius in this case, if our diameter is 18, remember, our radius is half of that, so that would make our radius 9. Okay, and so I'm going to now say that the area of my base is going to be equal to pi times 9 squared, or in other words, the area of my base is going to be equal to 81 pi, and that's square inches. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and jump back to my volume formula, and I'll say that my volume is going to be equal to my area of my base, which is just going to be 81 pi, and then multiplied by our height, which we can see our height is 14. Okay, and so they want, remember, two answers for this. So they want in terms of pi. So I'm going to say volume equals, I got to figure out what's 81 times 14. Okay, well, 81 times 14 is going to give us 1,134. Okay, and so I'm just going to double check this. 81 times 14. So yep, so my volume is going to be equal to 1,134 pi inches cubed. And they want it also kind of calculated out here, right? So I'm just going to say volume equals, I'm going to say 1,134 times pi is going to give us 3,562.6. So 3,562.6. And this is, again, cubic inches. So first example, I think pretty easy there. Remember, very similar to what we've just done, but now instead of dealing with polygonal bases, we're dealing with circular bases. Okay? So let's look at another example. This one says, find the volume of a cylinder with base area 121 pi square centimeters and a height equal to twice the radius. Give your answer in terms of pi and also rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, let's also kind of squiggle what we know here. Okay, we know that the base area here is this. Okay, what we don't know is the height. Okay, and the height is twice of the radius. So my first thing is we got to figure out what is the radius of this base of this cylinder. Okay, and so I'll start by saying, well, the base area is, so I'm going to say area equals 121 pi square centimeters. Okay, well, we know that the area of a circle is just represented by pi times radius squared. So all I'm going to do is take this part and plug it in right here, and then I should be able to use my algebra skills to solve for my radius. So I'm going to say that pi r squared is going to be equal to 121 pi. And if I divide both sides by pi, I find out that my radius squared will be equal to 121. And if I take the square root of both sides, I'll find that my radius is just 11 centimeters. Okay, well obviously that's not my answer, so I won't put a box around it, but I will put a squiggle under it because I have to use that. Okay, and so now we want to say, well, our height of our cylinder is twice that of the radius. So if I want to draw a picture of this, I really can. I'm just going to draw like a very rough sketch of our cylinder here. Okay, clearly it's not going to be to scale, but here's our cylinder. Okay, we know that our radius, okay, our radius here is we just found it's 11, and the height is twice the radius, so that makes that 22, and it makes this problem really pretty simple now, right? We know that the volume is going to be equal to the area of the base multiplied by the height, so our area of our base is just going to be equal to pi times our radius squared, and I just realized, and this is just kind of a funny realization, that we already know the area of our base, so why am I calculating it? Okay, and so I'm just going to say that my volume is going to be equal to 121 pi multiplied by our height, which is 22. Okay, and remember we have two answers because they want one of them in terms of pi, so I'll take 121 times 22 and attach pi to it. So our volume is going to be 2,662 pi cubic centimeters. That's one of our answers. And then our other answer, we'll just have to multiply that by pi, right? So I'll take this and multiply by pi. So times pi, and that's going to give us a volume of 8,362.9 cubic centimeters. Okay, and let's go ahead and look at one more here. Okay, so we'll kind of flip this to our next problem, and they want us to find the volume of a cylinder with a diameter of 16 inches and a height of 17 inches. Okay, so again, this is to me kind of a giveaway problem. I think these are all very easy and that we should all get these right, but I'll draw my cylinder, just a rough sketch of my cylinder. Okay, fix that last part here. Okay, again, it told us that the diameter is 16. Well, I think most of us can do this in our heads. The radius must be 8 then, okay? And that the height is 17. Okay, so this is really a very simple math problem. So I'll say that the volume is going to be equal to the area of the base multiplied by the height. Obviously, we have to find the area of the base, so that's going to be equal to pi times radius squared, which we'll say this is now pi times 8 squared. And the area of the base here is just going to be 64 pi square inches. Okay, and so now I'm going to plug that back into my volume formula. So my volume will be equal to 64 pi multiplied by our height, which is 17. And they want two different answers, remember, right? So our volume is going to be equal to 64 times 17 will give us 1,088 pi. I keep forgetting on what units I'm working in. Cubed inches, and then we'll multiply that by pi. So this is also going to be a volume of 3,418, we'll call it round up, 0.1 cubed inches. Okay, again, I hope the extra examples here are helpful, guys. I think we should all feel very confident with these particular types of problems.